Welcome to the Don't Pick the Scab podcast with the premise of connecting men over 40 with the tools and community to thrive in their divorce recovery either before, during, or after a divorce. Welcome, everybody out there to Don't Pick the Scab podcast, episode 115. Today's guest is AJ Maddeny, a strategic conflict advisor and the author of Divorce Emergency Protocol. With a graduate degree in conflict analysis and resolution, an executive MBA, and a background as a senior policy analyst for the State Department, AJ brings a unique system-based approach to relationship dynamics. He specializes in helping men over 40 navigate the turbulent waters of divorce, not with the therapy jargon or cliches, but with clear frameworks and actionable strategies. AJ's expertise lies in exposing the hidden structural forces behind relationship breakdowns, from misaligned roles to institutional pressures. He empowers his clients to read conflict as infrastructure, which is, I want to hear about that definitely, not as a personal failing, and equips them to respond with clarity and strategic restraint. If you're looking for a practical tool to regain control and move from panic to planning after divorce, AJ's insights are exactly what you need. Welcome, AJ, to the podcast. Tell us about yourself, and I got some questions for you.
Thank you for having me. I'm AJ Maddeny, and you can find me at maddeny.com, MADDENY.com. And as you mentioned, I just published a book by the title Divorce Emergency Protocol. And the reason why I did that is because as somebody who operates in that field as a divorce mediator, I found that a lot of couples come to me after breaking that trust and the ability to have that communication where mediation can help. So I thought that maybe this book can help them not commit any of the mistake, avoid those that can actually break any foundational grounding that we can build on for their divorce. Because at the end of the day, you have a couple of options when it comes to divorce. You can fight it out, and that will be dragged out. It's going to be muddy. You hire a warrior in the form of a lawyer, and it's going to be expensive, and you're going to get bloodied and muddied. But otherwise, you can go the collaborative route, and that is you get somebody who can help balance the power structure between the two of you, figure out what exactly is needed and what are the wants and what's the cherry on top. And all of those things, when you have the right person, they can help navigate that interaction so they can facilitate the communication. But at the same time, make sure that the two sign this or come to an agreement that they both feel to be fair.
Yeah. What inspired you to specialize in conflict strategy, particularly around divorce? What was your arrows?
Yeah. It was a long or roundabout way to get to here. As you said, I was a senior policy analyst at the State Department, and my idea since I was a kid is trying to find solutions to things that I believe that people can actually work out, starting with being a product of a broken home. So my parents went through a divorce, and it was very amicable looking. They're very calm, intellectual people, soft-spoken and all of that. And suddenly when they divorced, suddenly there were demons. And I thought that the lawyers played a negative role. Thought, well, maybe I can help. I became a journalist and went to law school and tried to find out how to make it happen. The environment or the structure around us was appealing, so I went down that road to the State Department on a global level, and discovered that we can't get to an end because things move too much. New leaders and decision makers come with new ideas. They don't build on the previous work. They start from the ground up. And you only have 4 years in a presidential cycle, and less if you're doing something on that level. So that kind of took me down that rabbit hole to the point that I thought, well, maybe I can step back. All of this can be applied between couples and within relationships, so interpersonal side of the equation. And I started my practice as a alternative dispute resolution professional, and I found that a lot of people came to me for divorce. I wasn't starting it as a divorce practice, but it became most of it. I was more interested in the community side of the equation, some business. But then the pandemic hit, and I already was online. It was a niche, and it became, I didn't have to pivot, and it became the mainstream option to get on Zoom
Wow.
and do it. So that was why I found myself doing more divorce cases than anything else.
Wow. So, how does your background in decision science and policy analysis shape your approach to relationship conflict? And what is decision science and policy analysis?
Well, it's a science. It's a interdisciplinary degree. So I did my master's in conflict analysis and resolution, and it helps by finding the science so that you can predict if you do these things that the outcome would be approached in a way that you can almost guarantee.
Hmm.
Making a scientific approach makes it helpful to design something that will move people from conflict to resolution. The idea of doing that, we're trying to avoid at least the negative side, the violence, the breakdowns.
Hmm.
So that is the first threshold, is to make sure that there is room for the two to breathe, and then we can start actually getting into what is perceived to be mediation as a tool, and that is more tactical. It's like, okay, let's figure out what the position is. What is your demand? Why do you want to do that? So we move it from the demand and what people are asking for to what is the actual issue. I'll give you a quick story here so that, we'll put it in, instead of being academic and abstract here. Let's say a twin, fraternal, so they're not identical. They're playing around, they're 12 years old, and then suddenly they bolt down the stairs, go to the kitchen table, fight over the last orange. Mother comes out, say, "What are you doing?" And they say, "Oh, he took it, she took it." By the way, they're boy and girl. And, they're all trying to win an argument there. The mother doesn't want to hear it, takes it, cuts the orange in half, gives both. That's fair. Justice has been done. They leave and they're mumbling to each other. And there's grandpa in the living room. It's like, what is the belly aching all about? And they say, well, he knew that I wanted the orange. She always spoils my plan, blah, blah, blah. And I say, okay, you all both had half, just enjoy it for now. I said, but I can't make orange sorbet with half an orange. I need the full orange.
Hmm.
And he said, well, why don't you just bring them back together? You have two halves and go and make the sorbet. And he says, well, no, I just want to eat it. It's like, okay, you want to eat it. How do you make sorbet? With the skin of the orange. It's like, that's interesting. So you want to eat the orange and you just want the skin. It's like, okay, what does that make it? Is there a way out? And they said, yeah, I can peel mine, give her the skin, and she can peel hers and give me the edible part or the meat of it. And so they both end up with the whole orange. And that is basically what conflict resolution tries to achieve.
Mm.
Is try to figure out, are you actually talking about the same thing? It sounds like it, but are you really? They were both fighting over the same thing, an orange, but they were not fighting to have the same thing. And that is typical.
Wow. Why do you believe that most relationships, or actually, why do you believe most relationship conflict isn't personal but structural? And what is structural?
Structural, for the most part, means that there is a system that you're operating within and you're confined to make those options with what that system allows you to do. I'll give you another story if you like
There you
stories.
go.
So
Look it up. Yes, make it simple.
let's say you're 700 years ago, you're a knight and you're on your horse and you see a maiden, she's beautiful, and you're enamored now and she's enchanted. Sparks, cupid, arrows. You get married, you're in love, you get her a castle and you build a wall. You turn it into a fortress. She's in there. You're providing safety, you're providing the food, and all of that good stuff that needs to be there. And she's providing you the love, the care, the offspring. She's making it heaven on earth. Take those two people, bring them to this day and age. And that fortress is your house, but then the two of you can't maintain an upkeep. So she has to work, or she needs to work, or she wants to work.
Hmm.
And in that analogy, the gate of that fortress that you want to protect the family within is always open. She's out, she's in. You think it's she thinks that the outside there's a kitty cat, and you think it's a tiger. So those are the things that kind of makes you have different priorities and different approach to how you're dealing with the structure. Society now demands or expects that both husband and wife work. So that kind of breaks the equation. The equation used to be that the man brings something, the wife brings something, or both of them kind of complete each other. But today they are doing the same thing, which is being breadwinners. So who's going to do the rest of the stuff, the cooking, the raising of the kids and taking care of that, the social factors, which is very important because we are a social being. We need to belong to each other and within the society, not only the nuclear family, but also within a community. So that social aspect is not a luxury. We treat it as such, but in reality, it's one of our needs. And when one is not, both of them are busy just going to work, who's going to take care of the social connections, the bonds, the friends, the social interaction, the food, the gathering around the food, which is in each and every country is a big deal, except for us. We kind of eat on the go all the time. So we're missing a big factor of feeling safe within the group. Of course, that's not the only aspect of it, but it's an oversimplification of some of the dynamic that is going.
What are some of the myths that you encounter during conflict resolution? There got to be some pretty interesting myths.
Oh yeah, yeah. I, I think the one that is very very important is we do things with the ideal of gaining or asserting the concept of justice, and that is really a myth.
Okay.
Because here in the US, our justice system is a procedural justice, not an outcome justice. It's not that we're going to try to find the fairest outcome, but we're going to run you through the system in a fair, equal way. You both get representation, you get due process. But the reality of the matter is that kind of justice misses the point of having an arbiter, judgment, and that is delivering on what is fair, because it doesn't have the subtlety. It has precedent. It has, okay, in this, if the lawyer says these words and refer to this law, then they have the advantage, or the other one would have the advantage if they negate that. And those are some of the things that they do, but it's all about the process, not the real outcome. No one is saying, well, this person was being hurt because of X, Y, and Z, although the law says, ABC, because there is no agreement. And the other one is, of course, they're always in competition. You know,
Mm-hmm.
this system here is a system that is not unforgiving when it comes to being nice or being reasonable in a lot of ways. We try to do that on a personal level, but in our lives, we're very competitive because the economic cycle demands it. We have
Yep.
to be in it to win it.
Can you share a story where understanding the architecture of power changed the outcome of a divorce?
Understanding the architecture. Let me try to, if I understand the question. Let's say a husband and wife, they're fighting over a house. It's a big house, it's a beautiful house. They might be fighting over it, but if you understand that one of them would want to stay in it or the other one wants to sell it, it becomes an easier outcome. That if you just want the equity in it, well, the other person can just buy you out of it. You don't have to fight over the house. I don't know if that answers
Yeah.
the question, but that is basically because when I sit with each party, I say, okay, you want the house? Okay, great. Are you going to live in the house? And if they say yes, it's like, okay, do you have the income that can sustain you in the house? Does it make sense? Well, it's going to be double basically what you're paying right now for mortgage. Does that leave enough money? Now the kids are going to be between the two of you. You know that there are going to be extra expenses. So do you still have what it takes to make that part, which is more of a priority than the house, because the kids is an actual relationship that can last and be reshaped and renegotiated into the future, the house is a static thing. Something, happens to the house, you can just get out of it. You sell it, you do something. The house is replaceable. Relationships, especially with your children, should be a priority that needs more of a focus and more effort than anything else. So when it comes back to the house, if you really just want it because it's close to the school, is this the best school? Is the new parent in the other district, is their school better? Does it make any sense to fight over the kids because you want them, or do you want to give the kids the best opportunity? That's one of the shifts that I spend most of the time around the kids between any divorcing couple, because we need to figure out, are you doing this because they're a leverage point, or because you have this emotions and love and you think that that's how you can express it?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it actually going to advance what is better for the... So those are some of the things. So there's a lot when it comes to divorce, but structural approach is reconfiguring what it is that will give you a satisfaction, the satisfaction of being a good co-parent,
Mm-hmm.
a better parent for your kids, that you actually did what counted towards that outcome,
Okay.
instead of what you thought would be a good thing to do.
So, how do you help your clients regain control when they feel powerless?
Hmm.
And how important is that for them to have some control?
And we'll start from the word control as a control not over the other person, but the control over your own reality. And that is, I think, a pivot that we need to figure out. Because if you're understanding control by applying power and exercising control over the other person, then you're never going to be there, because you have to just make them submit. You might have to go to the point of no return to get to that result. And it's just impossible. But the reality of the matter, like in my book, one of the first things that I ask people to do when they hear their spouse say they want out is not to beg, not to try to dissuade them, because after all, you don't want to be living with somebody who doesn't want to be in a relationship with you. And of course, you assume that they have thought about this really hard and deep and long, but we'll assume that they are there to actually see the divorce go through. So what you want to do here is say something to the effect, I hear you. Obviously, you thought of this, because I assume that you give it the respect that it needs.
Mm.
And I would like to have the same time that you took to come to this decision, to reflect on this as well. So if it took you 6 months to talk to lawyers, read articles, talk to mediators, whatever you did, you're ahead of me. And for me to catch up, I need the same amount of time. And if you have a good relationship with them, you can ask them, what did you learn? What is your idea of what that is? And that's, let's say, that's a hard...
Wow, that's interesting.
But at least you tell them, because that gaining that control over time gives you, it's like, okay, I don't have to think, what am I packing in my backpack to leave tonight, kind of thing. No. It's like, okay, you lived with me for the last 6 months at least, because you thought of it at least for years, and then you started acting on it somehow in the last 6 months. That's an assumption, of course, which is more realistic than people think. So I need at least 6 months to go through this. These 6 months is not for you just to go, oh, poor me. No, this is really 6 months or 3 months or 9 months of actually doing things that, if you take it seriously, you'll find that you're busy on regular basis trying to figure this out. That's why one of the things that most states require is a separation agreement, a separation period, usually around a year, without kids. With kids, sorry. And that's because it's complex. It actually requires all of that time to figure out your finances, what's happening, what is my pivot, if there's a pivot. Can the other side help me? They're going to help you regardless, whether they agree with you or not, because there are laws. So if you're able to discuss those things, you go back to the orange concept. So I get what I need instead of get just half of what I need because you need to take the other half. And then we're both ending up with half of what we need just because it looks like it's the right thing or because the court system thinks it's the right way to do it.
How do you map out conflict patterns for your clients? I read something about conflict patterns.
Yeah, conflict patterns. Well, I'll take you a step back. Maybe this is too academic and it needs explanation. But there are only five things that people can fight over in general. Of course, there is communication. There is desires or wants and needs. There's a value systems, and there's the structure or the environment itself. And the last thing is other relationships beyond the marriage. So you can always try to figure out which one of those buckets is dominating the conflict between them. Is it because you have different? I found that I'm a vegan now, and the other person is a meat. We got together as husband and wife because we loved hunting and we enjoyed going on safaris and overseas and doing all of that. And all of a sudden, 10 years in, he or she decided to go vegan. Wow, that is quite a shift. That's a value structure. So the fight here is not why did you decide to become vegetarian or vegan? Because if it's health, then you can't really argue that. If it's consciousness, then you can't dissuade somebody and say, well, you shouldn't feel bad about something. That's how they feel about it right now. And that's a waste of time. But what you can actually manage is are we going to be able to eat together? What does going to the grocery store would look like? What is that we need to adjust to manage this new shift? Are we going to be able to go to our favorite restaurant that we go there at least once a year because that's it has special meaning? We might continue to do that, but now we're a little bit cognizant that he or she or whoever is vegan is going to get the plant-based version of it. If they can't, maybe they're just going to do something else. That is just one of those aspects.
Oh, interesting. Do you ever work in tandem with a therapist?
In tandem, but not collaboratively. So sometimes I get couples that you go, okay, it seems like there is trauma, there is something that is beyond conflict resolution, and I require sometimes if we're going to continue that that person will go or both of them. Usually when I ask for one, it's usually I ask for both to go. And what they do is they start. I don't follow up with that, but I make sure that they are going and doing the work that needs to be done because it kind of reveals why you're here. And my job is not to try to tell you, oh, poor you, let's work around your stuff. It's like, no, how can we manage that so we can get you from where you are right now to a resolution? In my opinion, we're overdiagnosed as a society. Each of us has something. If I ask you what do you have, I will tell you that I might be diagnosed with AD because I can't sit still. I do too many things in a day, blah, 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 all of that. Classic case of ADHD. My spouse might be a narcissist, all of those things. But the reality of the matter from where I stand is that these are traits that we can figure out if they're not clinically resolvable through medicine, then we can work around them as conflict resolution issues. And there is no forced resolution when it comes to conflict resolution because the whole point is to be collaborative in charting and coming up with that outcome. And that requires that you voluntarily engage in the process and that you think that you want to commit to that outcome and whatever it is that you're going to promise to do. So the enforcement is part of it. And I will ask, and I always do, is that within what you can deliver on? Do you have the capacity? Do you have the time? Do you have the energy? All of those things. Because my job is to make sure that whatever they agree to has all of the foundational elements to be able to deliver on those things.
How important are boundaries in a conflict resolution, and what roles do they play?
Yeah, boundaries is a tricky word. For one, boundaries from the get-go puts people in opposition. So, the boundary that I hear, by psychologists and in the ethos of the U.S. in our culture every day. This is my boundary. It's like, I don't know what that means to you, but it seems like you're standing your ground and you're being aggressive. That's what I hear and see people do. But what is it that you're trying to protect? You tell me what that is. If you can actually understand yourself, where is that coming from, and what is the need that you're trying to satisfy by creating this shield around yourself? Once we figured that out, we don't have to actually just bump head because my boundary is in opposition to yours, because that's silly. If we're living together, if we're a husband and wife, what is it that you're trying to protect? What is it that you need? And that is, to a degree, sometimes has something to do with psychology. So that's when I try to send people when they don't have a clear understanding of where is that coming from. What is it that they're trying to protect? What is it that they value to the point that they're willing to lose other things for this thing? Because it's an equation at the end. When you create a boundary, you're losing something. So you're making a subconscious decision to a degree without knowing how much is it actually costing.
What's your percentage rate, a success rate? That's always good questions when I ask all
Oh,
my mediation peeps.
so it is a very high rate. It's 97%
Right.
for clients, but it's because I don't take all cases. So I only take cases that I know that they have all of those foundational elements that they're willing and can see this through. Sometimes,
And
of
you,
course, I may misjudge, and that's about 3%.
so you do a triage?
Yeah, I do triage. Actually, what happens with the 3% is usually I send them somewhere else. Sometimes they reconcile.
Uh huh.
Usually, the unfortunate part is once they get to the point that they're engaged in a divorce proceeding or process, they're already psychologically out of the marriage. So even if they have this glimpse of inspiration that would make them go back, if they don't go to a coach of sorts or a mediator that is specialized in relationship conflict, then they won't be able to actually figure out those things that got them to the divorce once they got to me.
Oh. All right, AJ. My men have about a half-hour attention span. So yeah, that was uh, that was that was awesome. Um, what's the one piece of advice you wish every man facing divorce could hear about conflict?
If you're fighting over logistics, when, where, what, and why, and you're asking for somebody to do things or not do something, then you probably 80% of the time you're missing what you actually are trying to address, the issue itself. You're not clear on it. Or maybe because you think that that is how you can solve it.
And how can the people find you on the internet? How can they connect with you?
Yeah, go to Maddeny.com, Maddeny.com. And by the way, I have a course that's starting on the 7th of August. It's titled Divorce Exit Plan for 3 weeks with it's 5 sessions because I do one-on-one within it as well. And I'm happy to extend a discount for your listeners. It's Exit, so
Okay.
EXIT.
All right, AJ, that was pretty awesome, man. I appreciate your time. Just hold on the line here, and we'll clock out. But thanks for your time and hanging out with me on a Friday afternoon, morning for me. But hold on here.
I appreciate